Have you ever wanted to be in complete control of your enemies? Well, today I'm going to teach you how to build the Hurricane Monk, an elemental warrior who can push, pull, freeze, and pulverize their enemies. We're going to maximize the potential of the elemental monk, all while staying true to our backstory and our roleplay. Let's dive in. This is going to be my deep build for the elemental monk. And as such, we're going to have some rules. Rule number 1, I have to want to play this character at my own table, which means story and roleplay comes first. Rule number 2, standard array only. Rule number 3 is the 2024 Player's Handbook only. Rule number 4 is I gotta stay as raw as possible. Sometimes I make mistakes. You guys are really good at letting me know when I do, so just keep that up. The Elemental Monk was most voted on the last deep build video. Just like last time, we're doing the deep build on a vote basis. So if you want to see a different subclass, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. Whichever one is most upvoted will be the next deep build. The Hurricane Monk is going to be 19 levels of Monk and 1 level of Ranger. It's going to combine the Elemental Monk with a little bit of Ranger to give us just an unprecedented amount of control. We can push enemies massive distances, we can pull them in close to us, we can freeze them in place, and we can pulverize them with our control. This is a level of control that most D&D players aren't even aware that you can achieve. It's a perfect build for people who want to enjoy a control-based martial, and it's going to work in nearly any campaign, but especially if there is a focus on giants. I think the story will shine in that case. Speaking of the story, it's time to introduce Crag Hornclimber. Crag is a hill Goliath, and although we're not giants, their society is similar enough that we are on the bottom of the bottom. Crag wasn't the strongest, smartest, or prettiest. In fact, he was the ugliest, the dumbest, and quite possibly the weakest of all of his hill Goliath counterparts. And that's not even considering the fire Goliaths, the storm Goliaths, who had control over elements. Crag was incredibly jealous of this elemental control his cousins had. Through being raised in this environment, Crag just really did not see himself as much. His self-image was stupid, ugly, incompetent, and that was what he believes about himself, and that carries forward to this day. But he had a very formative experience. He saw a halfling, someone much smaller than him, absolutely dismantle a giant. With hands behind her back, she controlled all of the elements with an amount of precision that he had never seen any of his cousins pull off. She would turn the ground to ice, and as the giant chased her, it would slip and she would just move out of the way. And Crag just watched this halfling destroy this giant. It absolutely blew his mind. Not only was something tiny beating something large, but she beat it using all of the elements that he is so jealous of. And in that moment, he just decided this was the person who he worships, and he is her pupil now. At first, the halfling, whose name was Ashari, was like, dude, leave me alone, I want nothing to do with you. But over time, she realized Crag had something that brought the mentor out of her, which was that he is completely egoless. Whatever she told him to do, so long as it wasn't, leave me alone, he'd do it, and he would do it without complaint, and he would do it to the best of his ability. Sometimes he'd fail, and she really put him through his paces, but again, he never complained. Then came a day when his master removed this strange piece of cloth. She said, put this on, and of course, Crag obeyed. And instantly, the second he put this cloth around him, it, one, shaped to his body. Also, in that moment, it was as if gravity increased 10 times. It was like the ground stuck to his feet, making it hard to run. The wind it would change directions just to push against him. It made everything more difficult. Ashari said, this has been my burden for the last 30 years. It's your burden now. This will guide you on your path. Follow its promptings and you will become great. You're also a fool, so find some good people to listen to. Find some friends who take good care of you and you take care of them. She also said, someday we'll meet again, and on that day, I expect your training to have progressed massively. If you remove the fourfold burden, consider me no longer your master in that case. And that was the final conversation she had with Crag. She vanished the next day, and Crag, being at a loss to know what to do, just did what he always did, which was listen to his master. He kept the fourfold burden on and began seeking out some friends that would tell him what to do while he trained. Let's talk about roleplay of Crag. Crag is a follower, he's not a leader. He doesn't put forth plans, he just listens to the plan and does his part as best as it's described. And he's typically pretty mellow, just kind of lets things happen around him, with a couple exceptions. The main exception being that if someone tries to take the fourfold burden, he freaks out. He's innately humble. He doesn't see himself as much, and if he accomplishes something, he'll give that credit to his master. Oh, I only was able to pull that off because of my master's greatness. I want to talk about this fourfold burden and how it applies to our roleplay. Every time we gain a level, we gain new things, and those things are going to be represented by the fourfold burden. So it transforms every level, and it gives the character new challenges and the resistance against those challenges. For example, at level 2 we get Flurry of Blows. Well, we want to represent that at level 1. The fourfold burden is going to transform into gauntlets. And these gauntlets fire 3 orbs up in the air, and it's our job to catch those 3 orbs before they touch the ground. However, the gauntlets also manipulate the wind to change the trajectory of both the stones or the orbs that are floating through the air, as well as our hands, so it's really freaking tough to grab those. All during level 1, that burden is going, that's how we're going to be training. And once we hit level 2, it's because we finally got consistent at catching all 3. Once we're consistent at what the training is, it morphs. So once we're level 2, it'll start focusing on level 3. So a fun part about this flavor is looking at next level and designing a training regimen that would justify learning those things. This character is one big training arc. We're like an anime protagonist who's constantly trying to become better. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. Alright, now that our story and roleplay is set, let's talk about the build. Obviously, we're going Hill Goliath. Hill Goliath's main thing is that they allow us to knock someone prone for free when we hit them. This is particularly good with grappling, because if you have someone grappled and prone, they can't use their movement to get back up, so all melee attacks are going to have advantage on them, and all their attacks are going to have disadvantage. This is very close to the restrained condition, and we basically get it for free. All we have to do is hit them with an attack. Additionally, by going Goliath, we get Large Form. Large Form's primary advantage for us is it allows us to grapple enemies that are bigger. This is going to be a grappling build, so being able to grapple a whole extra size larger is a ton of creatures. It's really nice as a Goliath. As for our background, I went with Guide. This represents the time period of training in the elements with Ashari. This is less about guiding other people and more about that we just spent so much time out in the wilderness training that we learned a thing or two. The most important part of this is taking the jump spell. The jump spell is going to combine with our grappling to allow us to jump 30 feet up in the air and smash people's heads in the ground. You remember me saying this character pulverizes people? Well, that's where it comes from. More on that later. As for everything else, we're a normal monk. I went with acrobatics and athletics as our skills because this is a very physical character and I wanted to represent that in our skills. This is not a skill-focused build in any way, shape, or form. And I also took the cooking tools because he cooked for Ashari. That was one of the reasons Ashari stuck around, is this Hill Goliath actually is a pretty decent chef. Level 2, we're gonna get Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, Step of the Wind, all the normal stuff. Flurry of Blows is gonna be our main one, and the other ones will come in when we need them. We also get Uncanny Metabolism, which is great for just extra ki, and Unarmored Movement. This is great for moving faster. One of the funnest things about Monk is your high mobility, and we really get to take advantage of that. Alright, level 3, we get Elemental Attunement. We become the Warrior of Elements. This is going to allow us to turn on a mode that when we attack, our unarmed strikes get 10 feet of extra reach, so 15 in total. These attacks are now elemental based, so if there's an enemy who has weaknesses, we can capitalize them, or if it has resistances, we can avoid them. It allows us to push them 10 feet or pull them towards us 10 feet, so this gives us tremendous amounts of control. Well, I had a question. If we can do unarmed strikes at a distance, can we grapple at a distance? So I started doing some digging, and I found some conflicting opinions, one in one direction, one the other direction. However, on D&D Beyond, there is a Wizards of the Coast employee named Mike Bernier, who I consider a credible source, and he talked about the Elemental Monk and said that they can grapple from a distance. That is the most reliable source I've found, straight from Wizards of the Coast. So that's the one we're going to be using on this build, which does some pretty amazing things, because now when we attack, we can grapple them at a distance 15 feet away from us, and then we can still attack with our elemental attacks at that range, but they can't do melee attacks against us. Additionally, if they're ranged, then we can grab them and then hit them with an elemental attack and pull them close to us. So now they're stuck next to us with ranged weapons, so we can counter both ranged and melee with this setup. Pretty sick. And this also increases our range of our opportunity attack. Anyone who's leaving that range, we can go ahead and make an attack, which we can turn into a grapple. So we can do reaction grapples, which is pretty nice. Speaking of reactions, we also get deflect attacks. This one's gonna fall a bit on the wayside. It's a good feature, but we're gonna be using our reaction for a bunch of other stuff, namely slow fall. And so more often than not, we're not gonna have our reaction available. Okay, level 4. Level 4 is massive for us, probably our biggest level. We get the grappler feat, bumping dex up to 18. This is amazing because now we just get incidental grapples. We never have to try a grapple. Just once per turn, we hit them, we do some damage. Did we grapple them as well? If so, then we can bonus action jump into the air 30 feet, pile drive them down. Oh no, we're gonna take damage too. Nope, reaction slow fall also comes in at level 4. So now we're getting to do additional 3d6 of damage on top of another way of auto knocking them prone. When you take damage from falling, you automatically go prone. So now we grapple them, we knock them prone, so now we have them completely controlled. I also want to say that, a lot of people don't like cheese grater strategies that if spike growth's put up, they're like, hey, you can't drag them through the spike growth because your arm is dragging them and you're going to get your arm torn up. Well, now we're using things like water whips to grapple them, so we can drag them with our full movement through the spike growth. Then we can use our action to punch them, which drags them towards us in the spike growth. Then we can use our next attack, next level, to punch them again, to push them 10 feet away from us through the spike growth again. And yeah, as far as cheese graters go, this build might be the cheesiest of the cheese graters. You can also do some sick combos all at once with the grappler feat. The way the timing works between grappling as part of an attack and dealing damage means you can do so many things in one single attack. Very good. Level 5, we get extra attack, fantastic. This is not only more damage, but it's more control. We can push an enemy now 40 feet if we use Flurry of Blows using our elemental attunement. So if there's any objects around that the enemies don't want to be stepping in, you can absolutely force them to. You can bring them closer to you, further away, you can make them mimic your movement with your grapple and drag them around. Fantastic. We also get Stunning Strike at this level, but I would say it falls to the wayside compared to Flurry of Blows. So overall, probably won't be spending the most ki on that. My general philosophy with monks is choose one feature that uses ki and really maximize the amount you can get out of it. That way you can dump all of your resources into that one thing that you specialize in and get the maximum amount of value. For us, probably Flurry of Blows. Level 6, we're going to take a dip into Ranger. The main reason why is we want 2 extra castings of the jump spell. But this also does a couple other things for us. Gives us Short Sword and Dagger Mastery, which is going to give us an extra attack with our attack action. And then we also get some free Hunter's Mark casting, so we have something else to do when the grappling just isn't working, we're out of resources or whatever. Now we can go in there and hit them up to 5 times at this level. That's 5d6 for a first level spell. Well, you really want to avoid getting hit when you're concentrating because we don't specialize in protecting it. And then with your bonus action attacks, you're going to be using unarmored attacks and you want to push them away so you can disengage for free, and this allows you to maintain concentration much easier than a lot of other people. Level 7, we get Elemental Burst, which is basically mini Fireball, and what's cool is we can bonus action Flurry of Blows to knock a bunch of enemies into a singular group, and then action Fireball them. That's kind of our combo. Overall, this is only good when there's a bunch of little people. So we're good at taking on people one-on-one in general, even 2-on-1, but when it gets to a large group, most monks have nothing they can do. We have options, which is cool. Level 8, we get Evasion. This makes Dex saves completely, just absolutely bonkers. Not a problem. Level 9, we do a Dex bump. Dex is so important for this build. It's everything to do with grappling and accuracy and damage. It must be maxed. No argument there. Level 10, we get Acrobatic Movement, and this is awesome because it means anytime there's a vertical anything near us, we no longer need to even use the jump spell. We just grapple them, then we use our normal movement or even bonus action dash or even action dash plus bonus action dash to just absolutely fly up this vertical surface and pile drive somebody to the ground. Really just saves us jump spells, which is cool. Level 11, we get Heightened Focus. This gives us a buff to all of our basic key abilities. The most important is going to be Flurry of Blows, but the Step of the Wind one's also really sick, especially because we're going to get flying eventually and we can just transport people as a bonus action a massive amount of distance. Really good for just team mobility. Level 12, we get that flying speed. We also get a swimming speed along with it, but flying is going to be the big deal. And this allows us to pick up enemies from the sky with our elemental attunement and then drop them to the ground. Another way to make them auto prone and deal a little bit of extra damage. Yeah, this is going to be super hard to pin us down. We have a ton of battlefield control. I can't stress that enough. I know you know it, but I'm just gonna stress it again, that we can push, we can pull, we can grapple, we can pile drive. Every way a martial can control someone, we can control someone. When they want to be far, we make them close. When they want to be close, we make them frozen. So good. Level 13, I'm bumping Wisdom. Simple. Level 14, we get Deflect Energy, which again, because we're using our reaction for Slow Fall fairly often, we might not use as much, but it's really in flavor and quite good. So I'm happy to pick it up here. Level 15, we get Disciplined Survivor. This is just going to make all of our saves incredible. Overall, just a great feature. Level 16, we get Perfect Focus, which means we start each fight with a minimum of 4 key points. This is great. This is absolutely fantastic because that's an elemental attunement and 3 flurry of blows, or whatever else you want to do, but I think more often than not, that's what it's going to be every single fight. Nice. Level 17, you probably want to take a Wisdom half feat, but none of them were singing to me, so I just took a full Wisdom bump. But if you take a half feat, then you can take the Epic Boon and bump Wisdom and get a bit more value a couple levels later at the expense of a little bit more value here. I just went with the Wisdom buff though, mostly because none of the flavors were singing to me. At level 18, we grab Elemental Epitome. This is going to increase our AoE. Whenever we take the Step of the Wind bonus action, we now, whenever we step next to an enemy, they take a monk's die of damage. This will eventually be a d12. So we want to dart around, hit all the little enemies, maybe group them together in the meantime, if we can, and then hit them with an AoE blast. Again, the Elemental Monk can deal with crowds better than any other monk. We're seeing that here. It also gives us some resistance to 1 damage type, which we can shift, so our elemental resistance becomes very, very good, because most enemies are probably only going to have 1 element. Level 19, we get Superior Defense. For 3 key points, we get resistance to basically all damage, other than force. That's basically doubling your HP for 3 key points for the fight. Pretty freaking good. And level 20, we get an Epic Boon, and I had to go with the Boon of Speed. And flavor-wise, here's what I'm thinking. This is the level where we take off the 4-fold burden. And so it's kind of like when Rock Lee drops his weights, or, you know, the anime characters remove their training vest, and all of a sudden he moves frickin' fast. And this is where it gets, you know, silly, where we grab someone and we run up a wall and use the jump spell to jump off the wall and pile drive them from like 900 feet in the air. I'm over-exaggerating, but you get the feeling. I think being that fast is really a cool way to end this character's career. And there you go. That's Crag Horn Climber, the Hurricane Monk. I really like this build. I'm personally super excited to play this build, both for all the mechanical fun you can have, but also because I really like his roleplay story. I think I would just really, really enjoy it. So he's definitely on my list. And if you want to have a say in the next deep build, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below, or like the one that already has written it down. The winner will be the next deep build. And while you're down there, it's clear to me that you like creative character builds, which means you like this channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and I'll keep them coming. All right, my friends, talk later. Peace.